You know the movie. Jack Nicholson, Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Hi.
A dark fantasy about a devilish man and three women who discover their powers. But what if I told you the true villain wasn't on screen? What if the real hell was behind the camera? One of the biggest box office hits of 1987 almost fell apart because of a clash between two Hollywood legends. And that's just the beginning. Welcome back to Golden Flicker, where we uncover the forgotten stories of cinematic history. Today, we're diving deep into the wicked world of the Witches of Eastwick. From a shocking on-set rivalry to the special effects that nearly killed an actor, get ready to discover 20 insane facts you never knew about this dark fantasy blockbuster. Released in 1987, The Witches of Eastwick was a perfect storm of talent. Based on the John Updike novel, it brought together a powerhouse cast led by Jack Nicholson in one of his most iconic roles as Daryl Van Horn. Cher, Susan Sarandon, and Michelle Pfeiffer played the three lonely women who accidentally summon him, leading to chaos, comedy, and some truly stunning visuals. The movie was a massive commercial success, earning over $63 million against a $22 million budget, and it perfectly captured the spirit of the 80s, bold, stylized, and a little bit wild. Do you remember the first time you saw the flying scene with the feather, or the legendary tennis match? Tell me in the comments, and let's get started with our countdown of 20 unbelievable facts. Number 20. Cher's casting battle. Cher originally wanted to play Jane Spofford, Susan Sarandon's role. She even had a dispute with the studio over it, but eventually she was cast as Alexandra Medford. Ironically, this change made her the most memorable and iconic character in the film, perfectly capturing the spirit of the 80s with her bold and rebellious portrayal. Number 19. Anjelica Huston's lost opportunity. Anjelica Huston, Jack Nicholson's real-life partner at the time, was considered for a role in the film. However, producers feared her powerful presence might overshadow the lighter tone they were aiming for. So the part went to Susan Sarandon, who brought a unique vulnerability and transformation to the character of Jane. Number 18. The power of Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Suki Ridgemont, was the timidest of the three, but in real life, Pfeiffer had a lot of power on set. She was very picky about her roles and was on the rise to becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars. She chose this role specifically because she wanted to work with Jack Nicholson. Her performance as the mother of six who finds her voice and courage is one of the film's strongest points. Number 17. The real villain. The biggest rivalry on set wasn't between the characters. It was between Cher and director George Miller. Cher, at the time, was a huge star and had just won a Golden Globe for Silkwood. But Miller, the visionary behind Mad Max, was known for his demanding and precise style. The two clashed constantly. Cher famously said Miller was one of the most difficult directors she'd ever worked with. The tension was so high that it affected the mood on set, but somehow that on-screen chemistry between the three actresses flourished despite the real-life drama. Number 16. Jack Nicholson's contract. Jack Nicholson had a very unique contract. He was given a percentage of the film's gross profits in addition to his salary. This deal was a major factor in his decision to take the role, and it paid off handsomely, making him one of the highest-paid actors of his time for a single film. He truly embodied the devilish charm of Daryl Van Horn. Number 15. The tennis secret. The iconic tennis scene was a technical nightmare. It was a combination of live action, special effects, and prop work. The balls were controlled by wires and were meticulously choreographed to hit the actors in specific places. The actors were not playing a real game. They were reacting to the controlled chaos around them, making their performances even more impressive. Number 14. Cher's difficult scream. In the scene where Daryl Van Horn is about to reveal his true self, Cher had difficulty delivering a convincing scream after numerous takes. the production decided to use an alternative recording in post-production to intensify the scene and achieve the desired dramatic effect. Number 13. The animatronic, too disgusting to use. For the infamous cherry vomiting scene with Felicia, the special effects team actually built a full-body animatronic replica of Veronica Cartwright. This puppet was designed to writhe, convulse, and spew out massive amounts of vomit in a disturbingly realistic way. But when the filmmakers tested it, the results were considered far too grotesque and off-putting. Audiences found it repulsive rather than entertaining, so most of the animatronic shots were cut from the final film. Only a few subtle touches of the effect made it into the version we see today. Number 12. The Updike Legacy. The author of the novel, John Updike, was reportedly very disappointed with the film's ending. He felt that the movie's conclusion was too happy and lacked the subtlety and complexity of his book. He famously said that the movie was an amusing and beautiful entertainment, but didn't have the teeth of his novel. Number 11. Pioneer in digital sound design. The Witches of Eastwick was one of the first major Warner Bros. Blockbusters to heavily use digital sound design. The unique sounds of the witches' powers and Daryl's voice were created using early digital synthesizers, giving the film a distinctive audio identity that was ahead of its time. Number 10. A Mansion of Illusions. The grand staircase in Daryl Van Horn's mansion wasn't just a beautiful set piece, it was part of an elaborate studio build designed to feel almost otherworldly. The interior of the mansion, including the staircase, was entirely constructed on a Hollywood soundstage, while the exterior shots were filmed in Massachusetts. Director George Miller wanted the house to feel like a living character, a place that could both seduce and terrify. The winding staircase, with its dramatic lighting and exaggerated design, was meant to disorient viewers and give the impression of an endless, labyrinthine space. It wasn't a real historic mansion interior, but a carefully crafted illusion that heightened the film's gothic atmosphere. Number 9. The cue that escaped the movie. John Williams' score didn't just elevate the film, it escaped it. The end title piece, Devil's Dance, became a standalone concert staple, performed frequently by Williams and orchestras worldwide. It's published in the John Williams Signature Edition and regularly shows up on Pops programs, proof that Eastwick's mischievous musical spirit outlived the movie itself. Number 8. Jack Nicholson, the Improviser. Jack Nicholson was notorious for his improvisation. Many of his lines in the film, especially the humorous and flirtatious ones, were not in the script. He would often add a line on the spot, like the famous "just a little love tap," to a scene, which kept the other actors on their toes and gave the film its raw energy. Number 7. The Cherry Scene. The cherry spitting scene, where Daryl explains his theories about human nature, was a last-minute addition. The writers came up with the idea to show Daryl's playful yet manipulative nature. The scene was improvised, and the genuine reactions of Cher, Sarandon, and Pfeiffer to Nicholson's antics are what make it so brilliant. Number 6. The alternate ending that never made it. Originally, the filmmakers shot a darker, more destructive ending for The Witches of Eastwick. In this version, Daryl Van Horn's fate was far more severe, and the supernatural consequences for the town were more dramatic. However, when tested with audiences, the ending was considered too intense and unsettling for the film's blend of comedy and fantasy. The studio demanded a softer resolution, resulting in the version we see today, which displeased the book's author, John Updike. Number 5. The Massachusetts Connection. Although much of the film was shot on sound stages in Hollywood, the exteriors were filmed in Cohasset, Massachusetts, a quiet coastal town that suddenly found itself overrun by Hollywood cameras, props, and curious onlookers. Local residents were recruited as extras, and many of the storefronts were dressed up to match the fictional town of Eastwick. Number 4. The Vomiting Curse. The final scene where the women use voodoo dolls to make Daryl sick was another special effects marvel. The team used a special tube to pump a green slimy liquid into Jack Nicholson's mouth to create the effect of him projectile vomiting. It was so unpleasant that Nicholson himself admitted it was one of the most disgusting things he's ever had to do for a movie. Number 3. The Practical Magic of the Witches. Creating the witches' supernatural powers on screen required a complex combination of practical effects. Fans might not realize that many of the floating objects, sudden gusts of wind, and magical displays were achieved with wires, pulleys, and hidden stagehands carefully coordinating each move. The actresses often had to react to cues that were barely visible, making their performances feel spontaneous. This meticulous craftsmanship behind the scenes helped make the witch's magic look believable and mesmerizing, even without modern CGI. Number 2. The secret behind the makeup. The aging makeup on the women at the end of the film was a major concern for the actresses. They were worried that it would make them look old and ugly. But the makeup artists worked with them to create a look that was more subtle and magical. They used special effects makeup to make the wrinkles and lines look more mystical and less like a standard old age makeup. And now, the golden flicker moment. Number 1. The script nobody wanted. Before it became a hit movie, the script for The Witches of Eastwick was passed around Hollywood for years. Major studios like Paramount and Universal passed on the project, believing the mix of comedy, fantasy, and horror was too strange and unconventional. They were all afraid of the premise: 3 women, 1 man, and the devil. It was producer John Peters who finally believed in the project and brought it to Warner Bros. He fought for the film to be made, even when studios were nervous about the dark themes. You agree that this is the golden flicker moment, don't you? The most iconic films are often the ones no one believed in, the ones that had to fight to exist. And The Witches of Eastwick is a perfect example of that. From a chaotic set to a legendary cult classic, The Witches of Eastwick proved that a little bit of magic and a lot of star power can overcome any obstacle. The film is a timeless testament to the power of 3 women and the fun of breaking the rules. If you learned something new today, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker so you don't miss any more Hollywood behind-the-scenes stories. What's your favorite fact from this video? And what film or actor do you want to see here next? Let us know in the comments below.